This is some of the rice that's ready to harvest at this point?
So we harvested a sample yesterday. It was 21%, and that's a good moisture to be harvesting at. So the thing you worry about with rice is breaking kernels. So if it's too dry when you harvest it, a lot of the kernels can break, and that means that your quality goes down. So when you go to mill that rice and put it in a bag, you're going to get a smaller percentage of whole kernels in that bag out of 100 pounds. And of course, that's going to cost more for whoever's going to buy the product. So if you harvest it at adequate moisture and dry it properly, you're going to end up with a very high quality product with a very good milling yield. Rice plants always mature from the top down. So these are going to be the firmest kernels up here towards the tip. And you can see down here at the bottom, some of them are actually still a little bit green. You can see there's a kind of a milky substance right there. That's what makes the rice kernel. So, you know, these things fill up, yeah, they fill up with this milky substance, and then that dries down into a rice kernel. So you can just take a grain right there and just start peeling the hull off of it. They call it the hull. And as soon as you do that, you've got brown rice. So that's brown rice right there. And then if you go to mill that further, there's a process that actually rubs the bran off of each kernel, and then that's how you end up with white rice. So a lot of people, I get the question all the time, is this a brown rice field or a white rice field? Well, it's both. You know, it just depends on how you process it.
Why specifically are you growing rice in this region?
Most of it has to do with the soil. So in this area, we have very heavy clay soil. So it does a great job of growing rice. You know, a clay layer that's about a foot under the topsoil, and it's basically impermeable to a lot of water. So you flood the fields out here, you plant the rice seed, and essentially you've got a bathtub situation.
In Asia, when you see them planting rice, they're usually planting one plant at a time.
Yeah.
How do you do that here?
Yeah, so we actually, kind of the process just from the start. In March, we'll start draining all the water out of the fields that we use to decompose all the remaining straw. We'll get the fields dried out. We come out here with a chisel, plow, and we'll do a couple of passes with it, about 10 to 12 inches deep, just to kind of aerate the soil and turn it over and get it all broken up and incorporate whatever the remaining biomass is. Then we bring a scraper out here, which is guided with GPS. So we'll drive it around the field, and it surveys the field and automatically calculates where we need to move dirt with a computer in the tractor. And so it'll show low spots and high spots, and then the tractor drives itself back and forth across the field and levels the field. So that's the next process. So then we put fertilizer on after that. And when we put the fertilizer on, we've got a roller that puts grooves in the soil. And so every 4 inches, there's a groove in the soil. And we put the water, and after we have the water on the field, we fly the seed on with an airplane.
And so we've heard comparisons that that rice farming, even though the water is visible because it's above ground, it's really only using about as much water as growing oranges or broccoli.
That's correct.
Can you tell me about the species of birds that you've seen come back into the area?
Yeah, so in the wintertime, as soon as we're done harvesting, we'll mow the stubble. We're going to incorporate it with a disc. We're going to put about 2 or 3 inches of water back on that field. And that helps break down all the straw and prepare for the next year, but it also attracts many, many migratory waterfowl and shorebirds. So we've been a big participant in a program called Bird Returns with the Nature Conservancy for the last 3 or 4 years. We also work with the NRCS, which is Natural Resource Conservation Services, which is part of the federal government, to provide great habitat at the right times for these migratory birds. So we've got all sorts of shorebirds, whether it's ibis or dunlins, and we've got all sorts of waterfowl as well, so ducks, geese, swans, that really call our place home right after harvest all the way until March, when we start draining the fields in preparation for the next season. So they get to use it about 6 months out of the year, and I get to use it about 6 months out of the year. I think just learning about the different varieties and learning about the regions of the United States that grow different varieties and where do they grow the best, you know? So in the South, they grow a lot of long grain down there. And, you know, they can do a really good job with that. And so you might, you know, look there for some of the long grain products. Or out here in California, obviously, if you want a very premium sushi type rice.
What have been some of the most recent advancements in rice farming?
I'd say the biggest thing has just been the use of precision technology. So utilizing GPS to level our fields, utilizing it to map harvest like I just showed you, and utilizing it to also apply fertility products. So whether it's a liquid fertilizer or a dry fertilizer, the ability to do a prescription for each individual field and each part of each field is not only improving yield, but it's also reducing fertilizer use.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for the tour. I know you've got a lot of rice to harvest, so I'll let you go.
Yeah, appreciate you coming out very much.
Thank you so much.
Come anytime.